Have you ever felt like life was spinning out of control? Like no matter how hard you tried, everything around you was changing faster than you could keep up. Today, I'm sharing a story about love, family, and the unexpected twists that can turn our world upside down. Stay with me, because this one will make you think twice about the choices we make and the secrets we keep. This story didn't happen overnight. It wasn't something that exploded suddenly like a firework in the night sky. No, it was more like a slow burn, a series of small moments that built up over time, hidden beneath the surface, until one night everything came crashing down. That was the night Jake called. Even though my mom stepped in and tried to help, the stress of that night stayed with me for weeks. I carried it around like a heavy weight, dragging it through each day, trying to pretend everything was normal. But inside, I was a mess. The night it all came to a head, I was exhausted. I had been carrying the weight of life on my shoulders for so long that I didn't even notice how much it was bending me. As I left my bedroom, I pulled my hair back and slipped on my robe. My footsteps echoed through the quiet house, each one a reminder of how alone I felt. I hurried down the hallway, trying to shake off the unease that had been following me all day. But as I turned the corner, I froze. Jake was standing there, just a few feet away, staring at me with an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stood there, taking in the sight of him. My son, my little boy, had grown up. His shoulders were broader, his muscles more defined, and his eyes held a depth I hadn't noticed before. But there was something else in his gaze, something that made my stomach twist. He looked restless, like he was holding back a storm. His eyes were shaking, and I could see the tension in his jaw. It was as if he had reached a breaking point, and the weight of whatever he was carrying was too much to bear. Before I could say anything, Jake took a step toward me, then another, and another, until he was so close I could feel his breath on my skin. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I didn't know what to do. Everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. "Mom," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "you don't have to do this." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a storm of emotions raging inside me: love, fear, confusion, and something else I couldn't quite name. I wanted to reach out to him, to pull him close and tell him everything would be okay, but at the same time, I was terrified of what might happen if I did. "Jake," I whispered, my voice trembling, "don't be so close. This isn't right." But he didn't move. He just stood there, looking at me with those intense eyes, and I felt like the ground was slipping out from under me. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and hurried to the bathroom, my heart racing and my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, trying to steady myself. My hands were shaking as I turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on my face. The coolness was a temporary relief, but it didn't do anything to calm the storm inside me. Jake's words echoed in my mind. "You don't have to do this." What did he mean? What was he trying to say? I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and one wrong step would send me tumbling into the abyss. I took a deep breath and looked at myself in the mirror. My hair was wet, my face pale, and my eyes looked haunted. I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. As I stood there, trying to make sense of everything, I thought about Richard, my husband. He was away on a business trip, just like he always seemed to be these days. Our relationship had been strained for a while now. The love and excitement we once shared had faded, leaving behind a hollow shell of what used to be. But Jake was different. He was my son, my baby boy. And yet, in that moment, he felt like so much more. There was a connection between us, something deep and unspoken that I couldn't ignore. I turned off the water and dried my face, trying to push the thoughts away. But they kept coming, like waves crashing against the shore. When I finally left the bathroom, I felt like I was walking into a minefield. Jake was still in the hallway, waiting for me. His eyes met mine, and I could see the determination in them. "Mom," he said again, his voice steady. "We can't keep pretending. You need to let go of this life. There's another way." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt my heart stop for a moment, and my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but deep down, I knew he was right. Before I could respond, the sound of the front door opening broke the tension. Richard was back. "I think I forgot my passport," he said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. The room felt like it was spinning. I looked at Jake, then at Richard, and back at Jake. The weight of everything was crushing me, and I didn't know how much longer I could hold on. Jake and I didn't say a word to each other as Richard grabbed his passport and left. I tried to say, "Have a nice trip," but the words got stuck in my throat. As the door closed behind him, I felt a wave of emptiness wash over me. I didn't know what to do or where to turn. Everything felt like it was falling apart, and I was powerless to stop it. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed forever. Jake's words, his presence, the way he looked at me, it was all too much. I got up and went to the bathroom again, hoping to clear my head. But as I stood there, staring at my reflection, I realized that no amount of cold water could wash away the turmoil inside me. Jake's voice echoed in my mind, "You don't have to do this." And for the first time, I wondered if he was right. The days that followed were a blur. I tried to go about my life as if nothing had happened, but it was impossible. Every time I looked at Jake, I saw the same intensity in his eyes, the same determination that had shaken me to my core. Richard was still away, and the distance between us felt wider than ever. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation, the last time we laughed together or shared a moment of genuine connection. It was like we were two strangers living under the same roof, going through the motions but never really connecting. Jake, on the other hand, was always there. He seemed to sense my unease, and he was always ready to step in, to offer a word of comfort or a reassuring smile. But there was something about the way he looked at me that made my heart race. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, the tension between us was palpable. We ate in silence, the only sound the clinking of forks against plates. I could feel Jake's eyes on me, and I knew he was waiting for me to say something, to acknowledge the elephant in the room. But I couldn't. I was too afraid of what might happen if I did. After dinner, I went to bed early, hoping to escape the weight of everything. But sleep didn't come. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts of Jake, Richard, and the life I had built. I got up and went to the bathroom, hoping to clear my head. But as I stood there, staring at my reflection, I realized that no amount of cold water could wash away the turmoil inside me. Jake's voice echoed in my mind, "You don't have to do this." And for the first time I wondered if he was right. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and sometimes the choices we make can change everything. This story is a reminder that we all face moments of uncertainty, moments when we have to decide whether to hold on or let go. If you've ever felt like you were standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of which way to turn, know that you're not alone. Sometimes the hardest part is taking that first step. Thank you for joining me on Long Life Wisdom. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, life is a journey, and every step matters.